Welcome to Brand News, the podcast, and I'm your host, Charlotte Emily, a fashion podcast sharing news behind brands. Each episode, we will speak to people from within the industry to get a better understanding of their job roles, as well as discussing the latest fashion news. So welcome, Damien.
Thank you very much, Charlotte. Happy to be here. Very privileged to be asked, so thank you.
Oh, thank you. You're my first guest, so thank you so much for agreeing to be on the podcast, and I'm super excited.
Let's go.
Yeah. I'm really excited to get some of your opinions, to discuss your career. You've travelled all the way from Berlin to be here, and I really appreciate it.
You're most
welcome.
welcome.
You so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So, Damien, you are currently a senior sales manager at Seek Berlin.
Yes.
For people who don't know Seek Berlin, could you maybe explain what it is where you work at?
Yeah, sure. So effectively, to kind of simplify it, it's a meeting point for brands and retailers, traditionally a B2B event, whereby brands can come, bring their product, bring a showcase of their product, and effectively introduce their product and brand to the industry. So kind of a middleman really between brands and retailers.
And how would you describe your job role to maybe someone that doesn't work in fashion or... Yeah,
it's a tricky one actually, because sometimes I'm talking to friends and family and they don't quite get it either. I think most of my day is taken up by pitching to brands, speaking to them, trying to assist them with the German-speaking market, helping them understand, how business goes in Germany in particular, how they can make an impact. We have a lot of brands that are kind of starting from scratch, kind of young brands, so we feel very responsible to try and help them. But there's also brands looking to reposition or to, kind of change their direction of the brand. So mostly speaking directly to brands, I think it's a little bit like the chicken and the egg. You need the brands to join Seek in order to kind of excite the retailers to register later. So I'd say, the first part of the sales campaign, the first 2 to 3 months is very much just speaking to brands, trying to get them on board, trying to kind of get their commitment, try and build a story around them within the location. And as we get into the later months, it's more about activating the retailers. So sending them newsletters, calling them up, inviting them over to Berlin, introducing the brands to them. And that's kind of it in a nutshell, really.
Yeah. I noticed on your CV, you've been with Seek for about 6 years now. And you have done 2 different roles, as in you're now a senior sales manager versus before a sales manager. What's the difference?
I'm just old. That's all it is. You get to a certain age and they just put senior on you. No, it's...
I didn't expect that. Good joke.
Yeah, good question, actually. I guess... I think it comes from a position of, maybe being there a couple of years and maybe being established within the team, and you kind of getting pushed up the ranks and they're kind of respecting that you have a bit of knowledge and you have a sales track record within the team, and then also having some newer or younger members of the team kind of maybe helping them out a little bit as well. Kind of coming from that position, I would say. Honestly speaking, the whole title thing, I don't know how I feel about it. As a company, we've been discussing it internally for a long time. And a lot of us felt that this kind of senior sales is kind of old, fashioned and done, and maybe doesn't represent who we are and what we do. So we do have new titles, and I've not updated my LinkedIn. So technically, it's a brand and retail specialist.
Okay.
But
that makes sense.
I haven't updated my profile, and I think it sounds a little bit... Am I allowed to swear?
Yeah, of course.
I think it sounds a little bit wanky. So I'm trying to come to terms with that first before I put it out there.
Okay.
Specialist is very...
What makes it feel wanky?
I don't know. That's just me. It's my weirdness, let's say. But
it does maybe specify what you do more.
Absolute. Yeah, and we kind of changed things from sales to kind of brand relations and guest management and brand and retail relations, and trying to be a little bit more in tune with modern times and a bit more specificity, let's say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You moved to Berlin for the job.
Yes.
So you are originally not from Berlin.
No, I'm not. Yep.
How was that? And would you like recommend it moving for a job?
Hell yes. I'd say to anyone who has the opportunity to kind of leave their home country or hometown or city, to just go for it.
Yeah.
You learn so much about yourself. Even if things don't work out, there's no shame in kind of, walking away from that or going home or whatever you need to do, go somewhere else. I moved in 2018. I was in London before, so moved down from Yorkshire. It's been awesome for me, I have to say. At first, when I moved over, obviously not speaking German fluently still, which is a disgrace after 6 years, let's say. I can get by, I understand it very well, but I don't practice enough.
Okay.
Mastering the language will definitely help anyone, regardless of Germany, Netherlands, wherever. It's definitely a shortcut to feeling more at home. But for me personally, it's been unbelievable just to kind of, move to a new country, learn a lot about myself, learn a lot about the industry, have completely different experiences to what I would have in Yorkshire or London, and really grew my network massively as well. It's just been an unbelievable experience, to be honest. Yeah, I kind of pinched myself a little bit. I kind of sometimes think the grass is always greener and you're kind of in a rut or you're working a lot and you're maybe not seeing the true side of Berlin. And I try to take myself away and go home for a bit. Yeah. And when I come back, I'm on the plane, as I'm coming to land, I'm always like, wow.
Does that then feel like home?
I pinch myself, yes, because it's like, it's just kind of like a gratitude for, I've somehow managed to kind of, not that there's anything wrong with Yorkshire, I love it, and I love going home, but I've somehow managed to get to London and have amazing 6 years and experiences, and then get to Berlin, and another 6 years there is kind of like what I always wanted to do, and I managed to do it. So when I find myself moaning at myself, I try to remember those moments, because sometimes you take things. I take things for granted.
Yeah. Is that also maybe? It just made me think of like fashion, so like fast paced, and it's such a quick world. Is that maybe also the reason? Could be.
I mean, things. Yeah, we're used to kind of moving very quickly, right? We're working in seasons. We're always working in the future. Maybe we're not enjoying the moment as much as we should, the present, and that maybe does have an impact. And we're used to kind of things being quick and.
I feel like if you're in fashion, you plan like Christmas so early because you're already. If you're a buyer or anything, you've already bought it in like August, the collection. Yeah. And I said to my mum, like, what are we doing with Christmas? And she was like, okay, I love Christmas, but like even this is too early for me.
Yeah, we're always in the future, right? We're always kind of planning in advance. And I think, you can get carried away with that maybe and drag that into your personal life a little bit.
Definitely.
I think it's good to kind of disassociate and just try and practice, to be present. And that's something that really works for me, to just sometimes take a break from the city or go somewhere new or go home for a bit and realise after being like a couple of weeks in Yorkshire and there's nothing going on.
Yeah, you need to get back.
I've actually done okay and I'm doing fine, and stop moaning about stuff. Just get on with it and enjoy it,
Would you say, because you've also done other stuff besides sales.
Yes.
Would you say like sales is your dream job?
Ooh, that's a good question. I really love what I do. I really enjoy it. I never had it in mind to do when I was at school or anything like that. I kind of fell into fashion, really, to be honest with you. And I'm very lucky that I did, because I really do enjoy it. I really like what I do.
How did you fall into it?
Well, growing up, it wasn't really on my radar. I mean, there's a number of things that I really liked, like music and fashion and sport. I was really obsessed by, but I didn't think I could find a way to make that my career somehow. I mean, I wasn't good enough to be a professional sports player, a professional musician. And fashion, I was just kind of like, I never really put any thought into it. So I left school and I trained to be an engineer for 5 years. I went to college and that was my life. And then at some point I had this moment of like, this is really hard work, like working away all the time, long hours, dirty job, really good money, but I wasn't fulfilled by it. So I started to think about, like, do I want to do this when I'm like 50 or 60 years old? Kind of working away all the time, and I was working with people that were doing the same, and they had families at home, and I just didn't feel enthused by 40 years of service towards this kind of job. So I started to think about, okay, what do I want to do? Which direction do I want to go? And I decided I wanted to go to uni and study an events management course, because I wanted to originally manage bands and musicians and kind of take them on tour and
Nice.
that kind of thing. And so then I quit my job, went to university, and all along that kind of period of going to college in Leeds and studying to be an engineer, I stumbled across the hip store in Leeds, which was like
Yeah.
a revelation for me, to be honest.
Yeah.
Completely changed my life and the trajectory of my life. Then went to university, and the guys are like, we need someone to help us out. Why don't you come and do like a weekend shift or whatever? And then that's when I stepped into the retail side of it. And then all of a sudden there'd be like guys coming up to the store from, I don't know, like Stone Island from London, or Adidas and New Balance. And I was like, oh, what do these guys do? And it just sort of fell into place.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
actually, this could be really cool to work for a brand, to represent them, to be their face,
Yeah.
Like,
And we said earlier, like, you've been with Seek for 6 years. Obviously, fashion changes a lot,
Oh,
like
yeah.
even season to season. But I would say especially in like 6 years'
Yeah,
time.
sure.
How do you feel like the company, or even you, like, how have you navigated through the changes?
Yeah. I mean, over the last years, there's been a massive change, I would say. Corona changed a lot, and the kind of
Yeah.
recent years has changed quite a lot. I mean, Seek now is, nearly half of the show is from a conscious background, sustainable brands, or brands working in a conscious way. I mean, by no means are we like the be all end all for that particular world. We're trying to kind of bring it along and
Yeah.
build the base in order to kind of bring others along and give them a platform to learn from each other. So I would say like there's been a big increase on more holistic brands, more kind of brands that are very transparent with their production methods and
Yeah.
pricing and operations, and showing you their factories and all this kind of thing, which I felt was very closed off before. So I think
Yeah,
it's kind of going in the
definitely.
right way, I think.
What would you say is like your most memorable experience in fashion?
Some good questions. Put me right on the spot. Yeah, a number of them probably sound quite boring, to be honest. But like I said, getting the opportunity to kind of go to, really cool European cities
Yeah.
and just meet awesome people from all over the world. I think if there's something in particular that stands out. I mean, it's very general, kind of hanging out with cool people, being inspired by, creatives, and having the privilege of kind of, working in different European cities, and being able to do that is a privilege in itself, I think.
I actually thought, like, I know I'm interviewing you, but I think my favorite memory, like fashion memory, was I was in Paris, and it was announced that Phoebe Philo was leaving Celine.
Wow. Okay.
And a half an hour after I saw the message on my phone, I had an appointment at Celine.
Wow.
So I walked in, and there was just like this massive buzz, because everyone, like, there was loads of buyers there, and I knew, like, I'm buying her last collection. And I don't know, it sounds a bit stupid, but it just gives
That's
me
way cooler than
chills.
mine. Yeah, I mean, that's like proper
It's such a
legit
yeah.
fashion experience, no?
Yeah, it was crazy. Like, sometimes I still can't believe that. I don't know. It just like worked out that way. But yeah, I think that's just what, like, traveling in Paris, definitely Paris for me. Like, I love Paris, but what it does, that city just, it's
magical for sure.
in like the fashion weeks.
It's the epicenter, the universe, the whatever you want to call it of fashion, and it's had its moments, and I think it's had its ups and downs a little bit, but it's always there. It's always
Absolutely.
prevalent.
Yeah.
It's the base for a number of brands and agencies, and I think that it's kind of like the holy grail, really, right?
Definitely.
And it's difficult to kind of compete against that, or even come close to competing, because it's just a beast in itself. Whether it's the fashion houses based there, amazing production there as well.
Yeah.
And just the way the city looks, it's just like
Yeah.
uber cool, no? It's just
It just
people
is
dress
fashion.
well, and it is.
I feel like people just go to the supermarket dressed head to toe in Celine
Yeah.
or Chanel or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna move to a part of the episode.
Deepest desires.
Okay, so every episode we'll highlight some of the fashion news headlines. So what's happening in fashion right now and why, what are you reading, understanding, etc. So I would say the top 5 brand news headlines this episode are: Louis Vuitton dropped their Christmas campaign. So that was quite a big one. Creative director of Moschino, David, died. It's really
Very
sad.
sad.
Yeah, really
Rest
sad.
in peace.
Yeah, absolutely. Kim Kardashian dropped a built-in nipple bra, and climate activists are upset about that. Business of Fashion dropped a new case study called Fashion's New Rules for Sports Marketing. Thought that was super interesting how sports athletes, obviously sports athletes, dress themselves. And last one, Balenciaga goes viral on social media with a towel skirt, costs $950.
Wowzers.
Yeah,
Loose change for you.
yeah, absolutely. So, okay, Damien, what news article did you bring to the table today?
I saw the recent Vogue Business visit to Our Legacy's Stockholm HQ.
Yeah.
I thought it was really, really interesting. I'm maybe a little bit biased because it's a brand I've followed for a while and I'm really into it. So maybe there's a little bit of biased perspective, let's say. But I just thought there's some really interesting insights within, 8 pages about how it is for a brand these days to grow, to become contemporary, and to kind of lead their segment a little bit. I mean,
Yeah.
for example, they're getting asked to do collaborations with Armani, which was super interesting. They're doing regular stuff with Stussy. 2 very different brands, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, one from, the OG Californian skatewear, streetwear brand, and sartorial maestros from Italy. So it's very, very different. And I think that's just very interesting sign of the times from brands that they're looking to brands like Our Legacy to kind of do that. And then just looking at, again, the boring stuff, like the figures they're doing, 30 million turnover.
That is not boring to me.
It's not bad, is it? It's not bad.
Yeah.
They've grown 80% year on year for the last 2 years, which is crazy. And again, something I'm seeing quite a lot from reports and forecasters is doing more with less.
Yeah.
So they really trim their collection down, and they think that's been a success for them with regards to the end consumer being able to find things a little bit more. So a small edit of products. I'm seeing that a lot with brands. Do more with less, kind of squeezing the ranges a little bit and trying to have more depth, less variables, let's say. So that was kind of interesting feedback as well. In addition to that, I think, they've also been at it a long time, 18 years.
Absolutely.
So I think maybe they've had the scope of trying lots of different product SKUs, and now they really know what works. So they've been able to kind of pivot and go into more of a streamlined business. So they've kind of been afforded that luxury, let's say, due to longevity, but that, again, consistency, perseverance, staying in the game, you don't get anywhere quick. You've got to be patient.
Do you feel like Our Legacy should have maybe earned recognition? Because there's a part in the article about the recognition. Do you feel like they should have earned it earlier, or do you maybe feel like they already had it?
I think they probably had it.
Yeah.
I think they probably had it. Again, a little bit biased. I think they've had it for a while. I remember when it started out and it was very, very simple, just like simple tees and sweats, and it's evolved into this kind of very contemporary, quiet luxury, kind of, as you say, if you know kind of vibe.
Yeah.
I think it's been on top of its game for a couple of seasons. And, I see so many buyers wearing it. Maybe that's a sign that it's cool. I see all the guys at Throwing Fits talking about it. Maybe that makes it cool. I mean, all the relevant stores, I would say, buy that brand.
Yeah.
Again, it's very subjective what I'm saying, but I feel that maybe getting some flowers now, but they could have maybe got it a couple of years ago too.
Yeah. What are relevant stores to you?
Again, quite a subjective thing, I would say. I try to be objective about it, but some of my favorite stores, I would say, are the ones that kind of inspire me when I go in and maybe want to spend money. I guess like from recent times, I think like VU store in Berlin is super cool. I reference that a lot. Obviously being a Berliner now, like being able to go in there and the way that they merchandise the product, I think is really cool and mix everything. So you kind of like, makes you feel like you're finding a gem perhaps, it's not so like, okay, that's a bunch of white shirts or that's a brand there. They kind of blend everything together, which makes it quite interesting.
And I also feel like their building is just
mega.
Makes you feel so special just being there.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Going back to the article a bit, the subheading reads, the Swedish label has grown into a 30 million business thanks to its anti-trend stance and savvy collaborations. Its latest with Emporio Armani was announced this week. So the words anti-trend stance and savvy collaborations, what does that mean to you?
It's paradox, no? It's kind of like, I mean, you're looking at them kind of doing like wide leg stuff for years, and it seems to be like the thing now. And
even when people were into skinny jeans,
they were always kind of I mean, this is our leg shirt, it's a 46, and it's like, I'm not necessarily a skinny guy, but everything is like, it's very unique to them. They've built a particular look, a particular style. I think you could definitely look at that brand. I mean, there's no branding on anything usually anyway, but you can look at a product or a look and it's them. They've kind of built that themselves, whether it's...
Without any logos, like ever, cool. I feel, definitely.
But you're right, this kind of anti-trend and then savvy collaborations thing is almost like a paradox, a conflict of two different things, but they've managed to do it somehow. They've negotiated the path of standing by themselves, having a very unique look, having a very strong brand identity.
How do you
to their
feel,
credit?
Yeah, absolutely. How do you feel about an Emporio Armani collab?
I mean, for me, I was a bit like, wow, that's really interesting. I'd be intrigued to see the product. I saw the shots and I thought they were beautiful shots by a well-renowned photographer. I thought it looks really interesting. I mean, Armani is like, it's not on my agenda whatsoever, but again, maybe, it opens Armani up to, maybe open. I think it probably works. It's hard to say who it works for more. I mean, I think the points of sale are all with our legacy. Yeah. So monetary, I don't know if it's a monetary gain for Armani by any means because everything's sold via our leg, but it's certainly a win for Armani in terms of like branding and kind of underground culture. And I think the guys who know our legacy obviously know Armani.
Yeah, yeah.
But maybe the guys who are traditional Armani don't know our legacy. So, on reflection, perhaps it's a win for Armani in terms of our legacy, in terms of opening them up to a new consumer, let's say.
Do you feel that is why brands do collaborations?
Yeah, I think obviously like monetary is a big aspect of it, when you can sell certain volumes and such. But I think from an our legacy point of view they've probably looked at it thinking, well, that's a big kind of pat on the back. Armani is like a legacy player in the fashion world and that's a sign of recognition and maybe we're not getting our flowers. This might help us get our flowers kind of thing. I mean, it was a shock to see that. I didn't expect it. I was kind of like, I feel two different worlds.
Absolutely. Like in general, that is what collabs are and do. You either love it or just, well, hate is a strong word, but dislike it, maybe. Yeah. Because, the hype around a collab is so big.
Definitely.
I wonder what this will do. In terms of, they say in the article, they have 200 to 250 stockists. As, like, from your job, sales manager point of view, how do you feel? Like, what is, like, the ideal number of stockists?
It sounds like it's quoted by themselves as growing organically, which is surely is the right way. The best way is keeping up with demand and keeping a limit, making sure that all points of sale are selling through and everyone's got decent revenue and decent margins and decent sell-throughs, and taking it step by step. And like we said earlier, that blend of D2C and B2B probably allows them to be a little bit more patient with the wholesale side as well when they're making good margins on their own stores. So 250 sounds quite reasonable and modest, I would say. I think there's probably a lot more room for growth, perhaps.
Yeah. Where do you?
60 million.
Yeah. Great idea. Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, good for them guys, great for them.
Absolutely. Where do you read your fashion related news?
Yeah, I'm quite nerdy on LinkedIn, to be honest. I really do consume a lot on there. I usually try and log in first thing on the morning and just scroll for 20 minutes or so and just try and absorb some stuff. There's an analyst I follow who's US based, so it's very US heavy, but I just think he shares some unbelievable knowledge. It's called Neil Saunders, I think.
Okay.
I forget the company he works for, but it's retail analyst who's kind of very fact-led, very numbers-led. Yeah. So it's a bit nerdy in that sense, but it's, his opinion on top of kind of hard data, really, which I think is really cool. Obviously, the general big players like Vogue Business as well. I think the business of fashion is awesome. I really think it's a really cool insiders kind of knowledge, and really enjoy the newsletter that comes every Saturday from them. They're always kind of sharing really cool stuff. So I would say between those guys, a couple of analysts on LinkedIn, Vogue, business of fashion, maybe a little bit of some of the traditional B2B like Drapers or Textilwirtschaft in Germany, JNC, as well, just to kind of get a flavour of that kind of local market too. Then the broader context of business, fashion and Vogue, and then maybe a little bit of outside of there with the US with this kind of analyst. So I would say it's between that mainly. Do
you keep up because you like it, or do you keep up because you have to?
I feel like I do enjoy it. I'm very nerdy about stuff, very kind of... I kind of enjoy seeing, hard data and science. This stuff, at the moment I feel like it's very negative. When I'm logging onto LinkedIn, it's we're going to be 10% down and the forecast is this, and it seems like very doom and gloom at the moment.
Is it because of the end of the year, people are shutting?
I think it's, end of the fiscal year perhaps, and people are kind of, not where they want to be or what they anticipated to be, and that, that obviously the big players have to share that information to shareholders and whatnot. And I do feel like I'm hearing more negative than positive. There's definitely still some positive stories. I hear Hugo Boss is doing well and Fred Perry is doing well, and I saw that Selfridges were 30% up, but a lot of the news
there's
I see is
also a lot of negativity.
Stuff, it's heavy. I also thought I was a bit conflicted because I saw that Selfridges 30% up, but then they're looking to sell the business, and it was kind of what does that mean? I
think there's a lot I feel like COVID, we talked about it, changed so much, and also for some brands was so booming online sales, and then it was kind of 2022 went well, and then maybe haven't adjusted the budget so much, so then 2023 maybe was so disappointing for some. And also with inflation, prices increasing.
It's a thing.
There's so many reorgs, brands for sale. I feel there's a lot happening.
There's a huge amount. I saw something the other day about VF basically saying anything but Vans and North Face were open to offers, which is wow. That's pretty heavy. Specifically saying Timberland wasn't doing well, and it's symptomatic of the times. I feel like it is a tough market at the moment. The general consumer does have less money in their pocket due to all these factors you mentioned with inflation, and what's going on in the world is affecting things for sure. And it feels like we're in this kind of tricky spell. A lot of external factors, like you say, as well, with this kind of growth, this aggressive growth perhaps from when we had the vaccine. I think there was this revenge spend thing going on, and a lot of brands saw a big increase on their sales channels, and maybe on reflection growing 20% or whatever it is on that was just like
too much,
not feasible.
Yeah.
And to stay flat or something would be more realistic. And you live and die by forecasts sometimes, right? You know, that's sometimes the detriment of us, right? You've tried to predict the future, which is like hard. And it depends on the kind of business you're in and if you have shareholders and all these other factors. And it's kind of seems quite negative at the moment, definitely.
Yeah. I also feel like there's so much like, if we're speaking about luxury fashion, like there's quite a lot of interesting articles about the fact that luxury buyers, it's like a quiet boom in the industry basically. But then on the other side, it's like that luxury is really struggling. Like there's such like
conflict,
that's the
messages
word.
about it. I keep seeing a lot. I feel like I'm seeing a lot of the traditional fashion houses saying that their forecasts are down and they're not growing how they want to grow, like Richemont or LVMH or whatever. And then at the same time, hearing some brands kind of navigating that relatively well. So maybe it's hard to ascertain like what is the real message there.
Where do you trust like to read your stuff? Is it mainly business or fashion?
I would say so. Yeah, I think they're legit. You know, they kind of they have a track record. They have the contacts to the business and the industry, and they seem to do a good job of it. I think they're the Vogues and the business fashion are the authorities, I would say, on it. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Damien, for being the first guest on my podcast.
Thank you.
It was really great to learn so much more about you and your role. We've reached the end of the first podcast episode. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
It was so nice to have you on.
Okay, I really appreciate it. It was a good experience. Went better than I thought. From my side, of course.
Yeah. Okay.
You were professional.
Besides saying wanky, you were really good.
Thanks, mate.